So this is a piece that I've been making with visible coils, and I've been rolling each of these coils like I showed earlier, and I've been scoring and slipping them. So I've gotten my slip a little bit wetter, so it spreads a little bit easier. I just mixed it with some more water. Every time I add a coil, I'm being sure to score, and I've got this scoring tool here. This is another scoring tool, a fork, a comb. Any of these will go fairly quickly. Quicker than just pressing with a knife or a needle tool or a toothpick, although a knife and a needle tool and a toothpick are fine, they just take longer. So I can, with just a little bit of pressure and that slip, I can get this to stick. So all of these coils haven't been pressed in and squished, they've just been coiled in place. Now, these are not the only kinds of shapes you can coil. I've got a little zigzag that I made, and I'm going to score the bottom of this and score the top of this piece here. Add a little bit of slip to what I'm adding here, or to what I'm attaching here, and I'm going to press this coil into place. Now, this is a more decorative coil, and I've got a little bit of cracking because I was working with it a little wet, but I can come back in here if I do have that cracking. So, one of the ways to deal with your cracking to make it not happen is have wetter coils. But if you've got some cracking and you're just having trouble getting rid of the cracking, you can use rubber tip tools like this, take your time, come back through and do some smoothing. And the rubber tips, we've got several different sizes, we've got different shapes. I'm just kind of using some round ones, but there's ones that are more flat that might get in between the lines a little bit better. There's some real small ones that can get you in between some of these shapes here. And depending how careful and how much time you want to spend, you can get these edges to look really nice. You can do a lot of work on them. Now I've got another little spiral that I've created, so I'm going to add some slip. These have been drying for a little while because I put them together and then did some other things. And so they are a little bit more dry, which makes the slip even more important. I'm not going to get away with just sticking them together. They do need that slip and a little bit of force holding those edges together. Now this little coil that I was working on, I did part way, but I kind of wanted to show you. I've just kind of wrapped it around. And as I bring this together, I'm going to want to stick these two sides together to each other. But I've also got a little gap, so I'm just going to roll myself a little ball. Just a decorative thing. You can do twists, you can do wrapping around, you can do braids, you can add little pieces of texture. I'm actually, when I think about these, I think about ancient Jomon pieces of pottery. And those Jomon pots have a bunch of different, oops, forgot my slip here, have a bunch of different shapes and textures all kind of wrapped around together. And then I'm making this to go on here as well. Let's see, scoring and slipping. So I add my slip there, make sure I remember to score where that's going to attach, and add on just like that. I could fill in that gap if I wanted to with a little decoration, or I could just leave it visible like that. Now, when I go to add, to keep building on this, I could just simply keep adding my coils on the top. I could fill in this section. I didn't really have anything ready to go, but I could fill that in with some simple coils, scoring and slipping them every time I add them. And I'm just going to quickly get a little bit of height because I want to show you some ways to change the shape, some simple ways that you can change the shape. And I'm going to leave these coils visible and change the shape above them, basically. Now I'm being a little bit messy here. You guys can take your time, and if I were going to be, if I were going to, I'm kind of showing you a bunch of things, but if I were doing this as a piece I want to keep and I want to, show what I can do, I would take my time and I would go through and I would clean up edges. I might have a stiff brush like this one that's just wet and not full of slip, and I might come back through and kind of clean up these edges like that as well. Right? I'm doing it away from me, so I think what's happening here is what I want to have happen. Now I want to talk to you about changing the width of something like this. So I'm going to, if I want to keep having this go straight up, I'm going to add my coil. Oops, what did I forget to do? Forgot to score this guy here. If I want to add this, make this go straight up, I'm going to add my coil directly on top. But I want to make this wider, so I'm actually going to shift my coil, and my scoring hopefully is out there as well, so that it's just a bit wider than the piece underneath. I'm going to kind of smooth that together. Now my next row, I'm going to also put just slightly on the outside. So this next coil happens a little wider than the one before it. Now, at some point, with adding the water and adding the wet clay, I'm going to run into an issue of this wanting to collapse on me. But as long as I take my time and I give it a, I don't build, I can build it maybe this high right now onto what I have here, and then I'll need to let it sit up a little, dry up a little bit. I'm going to score two at once here real quick. But I can continue adding these coils and making this wider and wider, basically as long as the clay is going to hold itself up. Once the clay dries up to leather hard, or closer to leather hard, once the wet clay is dried up a bit, it'll hold up even more. So I can keep adding those pieces on and on. Now, each time I do want to make sure that I'm pressing, that I'm not just setting these coils on, but that I'm giving a little pressure down so they hold on. Like I said, take your time and work on your seams and things, but I can continue to build this out. Now, the same sort of principle is going to work if I want to build this in, but I'm going to show you one more kind of cheat. It's not really a cheat, but it's a way to quickly change a shape. Man, I've been building this out. It's wider than I wanted it to be. Oh no, what should I do? Well, I can cut out a little kind of triangle in there. You see I didn't score that bottom one very well. Oops. Score my edges, add a little bit of slip, bend these in, and suddenly I've got a straighter wall. But if I want to have that wall be even straighter, narrower as I build up, I can start to add that coil, not on the outside, but on the inside this time. And so that inside attachment and another inside attachment, and I've suddenly got a piece that's coming narrow. Now I've started just building on the one side because I didn't have a ton of coils ready already, but you could build that all the way around until it gets smaller and smaller and smaller and eventually closes in. Of course, depending on the shape you're doing, you can do a combination of these, coming out, coming in, getting wider, having the other kinds of shapes happening. Make sure you're scoring and slipping, and then do take the time later on, once it's mostly together, to come back through and clean up those edges. You can use a brush, you can use a needle tool. Depending on the shape, you might be able to get in with a rib, although the ribs tend to do a better job for larger spaces. Take your time, try some stuff out, and of course if you make a mistake, cut it apart and try it again. You'll get better. Thanks.